Math 7, lesson 1, 1. Let's get going. So I've already actually defined these two for you to kind of speed up this process, but basically a rate, whenever you hear us talk about a rate, it's just a ratio that compares two quantities with different units. So for example, I'm going to write just an example off to the side. A quick example would be 160 beats in 2 minutes, so per 2 minutes. So this is actually one way that we can write a ratio. Another way that we can write a ratio is literally using the word two. So we could say 160 beats to 2 minutes. And then the last way that we can write it is 160 beats and then using the colon to 2 minutes. So those are the three ways that you may see a rate ever listed. The other vocabulary word that we're also going to see is a unit rate. So a unit rate is the same definition as a rate, but only that it is simplified so that it has a denominator of 1. So with our example, 160 beats in 2 minutes, if I simplify that out, I would get, for the example for this one, is that it's 80 beats per 1 minute, because notice that denominator has a 1. Alrighty, so now using those two ideas, make sure that you have those vocabulary words defined, and then we're going to look at this Venn diagram down below. So looking at this Venn diagram, I can see that I'm going to complete this Venn diagram by writing the phrases below in the correct position. So for 24 for 3 pounds, it can be written as a fraction. I'm going to decide whether it needs to go under the rate circle, under the unit circle, or also we have this other option of right here in between them, meaning it's part of both. So go ahead and pause and see if you can put these 5 phrases into the correct position. Go ahead and pause. Alrighty, so take a look at my table. I have that there were 24 for 3 pounds, and that 18 red cars to 6 blue cars are both as rates. While in green, I have 15 students per teacher and $10 per hour, because we know for both of those, if it's per some other unit, I know that that's like per one teacher. So like I could put the number 1 right there. I can put the number 1 right here for $10 per 1 hour. And then lastly, that blue one, it can be written as a fraction, which would be both of them. So right over here, if you're listening to this right now, in this top right-hand corner, I want you to put the number correct out of 5 that you got so that your teacher can see. And if you missed a few of them, just make sure that you're writing the correct answer where it should go. Alrighty, so the next question for our notes, we're going to look at this texting real world link. So when sending a text message to friends, Markeisha typed 90 characters in a little more than 60 seconds. So a lot of the time in the problem, it's going to tell you like kind of which unit needs to go where in our ratio. So I'm going to go ahead and set up our ratio down here, and it's 90 characters and a little more than 60 seconds. So I know 90 characters is pretty important, and so that's going to go up in our numerator. 90 characters, and then down in the denominator will be in 60 seconds. Then if she typed at a constant rate, how many characters did she type per second? So essentially what I'm going to do with my original rate of 90 to 60 is I'm just going to divide it out. So when I take 90 divided by 60, because we know that this rate line or this ratio line needs to be division. So when I take 90 divided by 60, I get an answer of 1.5. So what that means is 1.5, it's not just going to be the answer 1.5, because we have to include both of our units for our rate. So that's 1.5 characters per, and then down here in the denominator needs to be 1 second. So here we know that we're trying to find the unit rate, essentially, even though it didn't ask for that in the question. I would write 1.5 characters over 1 second, or you could even write that as 1.5 characters per second, because as we saw up above in the Venn diagram, that if it's per second, we know that indicates that it's per 1 second. All right, let's turn over our notes. All right, so on this one here, now we're going to identify a unit rate. So determine each situation in the table represents unit rate. If so, we're going to identify the clue words that help us know that. And then if not, we're going to rewrite the situation so that it does indeed have a unit rate. So the first one, situation, it is 60 pages read in 40 minutes. So 60 pages in 40 minutes. I already know because I see 2 numbers right here comparing 2 different things. 60 pages 40 minutes that this is not a unit rate. So we're going to put a no. The reason that it's not a unit rate is because I don't have a 1 in the denominator. I'm not just saying per 1 minute. So in order to get that, I'm going to take 60 pages per 40 minutes. And then I'm going to divide that out. So I'm going to take 60 divided by 40. Remember, this line indicates that it's that division. So 60 divided by 40, I get an answer of, again, 1.5. But then you have to include both labels. So 1.5 pages per 1 minute. But if you would like to rewrite that without the 1, you could say 1.5 pages per minute. 1.5 pages per minute. All right, then the next one, 50 miles per, I know that I could put the number 1 right there, 50 miles per 1 gallon. So this is indeed a unit rate. And how I know that is right here, that clue word is going to be just per gallon. So per gallon is equivalent to just one of them. So that's kind of my clue word. I know that per just means 1, per that 1 gallon. The next one, each movie ticket costs $9. So again, for each movie ticket, which I've just indicated our clue word right there for us, if each one of them, that just means 1 movie ticket. So this is already in a unit rate form. Again, each just indicates that there is just 1 of them. And then lastly, the 2 sandwiches cost $11. So if I know that 2 sandwiches cost $11, I know that that is not a unit rate because it's not just for 1 sandwich. So to set this rate up so that we can identify our unit rate, you need to kind of put a big fat star down here. And I want you to put money always goes on top. It has to go on top because it makes more sense to say so many dollars per sandwich rather than this many sandwiches per dollar. So I'm going to put the money on top, which means that I'm going to have $11 over 2 sandwiches. I'm just going to abbreviate and put sand. And then in order to figure that out, I just take 11 divided by 2. When I do that, I get 5.5. But now we need to think about this. If it's 5.5 as a money amount, I know that we always have 2 numbers after the decimal. So whenever I need one more number after the decimal, I'm just going to include a 0 right here because this indicates that it's $5.50. Notice I included my label there, per sandwich. So notice I also wrote it this way so that you can see that I can write a unit rate like 1.5 pages per minute, per 1 minute, or I can write it as $5.50 per sandwich. But notice in both of those unit rate, I have included both of those labels, and yet we still know that it's a unit rate for those ones. All right, let's look down below at this bargain shopping. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these for us. So at the bargain shopping below, it says, which is the better bargain? So we also have to justify our answer by showing work. So right here, $12 for 10 books. I told you right before this that you must put the money on top. So when we set that up, I get $12 for 10 books. Then when I divide that out, I end up with 1.2. So again, remember with dollars, I know that I definitely need that dollar amount or that dollar sign, but then we also need a number, that second number, that hundreds place, so that we represent that money amount. So $1.20 per 1 book. And again, we can also rewrite this as $1.20 per book. It does not matter how you write that final answer, just make sure that you include both of the labels. And then the other one, I get 15 books for $18.75. Again, with the money on top, I'm going to set that up as $18.75. I'm going to draw a quick line right here so we can see the distinction. $18.75 over 15 books. When I divide that out, I get $1.25. And then you would say per 1 book. So notice once I have both of these unit rates, I can now compare them. So $1.25 per book. Think about when you are shopping, your parents, they want the cheaper buy, right? They don't want to get the more expensive item. So between these two things, you would say that this bookstore over here for the $1.20 per book is going to be the better buy. So to justify that, justify just means to show work. So just make sure that you would be able to say, well, this buy over here for $12 for 10 books is a better buy because it's 5 cents cheaper per book. All right, so now go ahead and pause the video and you try this one to figure out if Hy-Vee or Price Chopper provides the better buy. Go ahead and pause. Alrighty, so hopefully you found that Price Chopper is a better buy because it is cheaper by about 6 cents because I rounded off that Hy-Vee price. But notice that how I labeled it. So I kept it as dollars with a 0 in the dollars, like the ones position, and then it's still 56 hundredths. But make sure that you don't say this and then say 56 and then cents. So notice this is BAD bad because it incorporates two labels, but make sure that if you have that dollar sign that you include that decimal to indicate that it's just 56 cents. All right, let's go ahead and turn our notes over. And word problems. All right, let's take a look at the Old Settlers Festival. Lexi paints 2 faces in 8 minutes. So we're going to show all the work. So at this rate, how many faces can she paint in half of an hour? So I know that because this is 2 faces in 8 minutes, I know that this also needs to be labeled in minutes. So not only just in minutes, but half of an hour I know is 30 minutes. So in order to calculate 30 minutes, I first need to know for 1 minute. So therefore I need to find the unit rate where minutes is down in the denominator because I have to find for just 1 minute. So therefore I'm going to put 2 faces on top over, and then it's going to be over 8 minutes because like I said, I want to find for just 1 minute. So when I take 2 divided by 8, I end up with 0.25 faces per minute. And I'm going to leave it like that because I know that that's essentially per 1 minute. So if that's per 1 minute, I don't want 1 minute, I want 30 minutes. So therefore I'm going to take this answer and I'm going to multiply it by 30. So this answer is 0.25 times 30. When I multiply that out of my calculator, I end up with the answer of 7.5. And then let's look at our what our label should be. It says at this rate, how many faces? Okay, therefore I can paint 7.5 faces in 30 minutes based on that information. But then in letter B, it says at this rate, how long, sorry, in your paper it says long. So how long does it take Lexi to paint 5 faces? Well, in order to find for 5 faces, first I need for just 1 face. So because I want just 1 face, I know faces needs to go down in the denominator. So using our first information that we had, 2 faces in 8 minutes, I know that I have 2 faces. I'm going to put 8 minutes up here because basically I need to figure out how long for just 1 face. So therefore I can calculate 5. So when I divide this out, I end up with 4 minutes per face. And then again, remember, this is per 1 face. So if this is for 1 face, but I actually want for 5 of them, when I multiply that by 5, 4 minutes times 5 ends up with a total of 20 minutes in order to paint 5 faces. All right, moving right along, let's look at number 4. So number 4, it says at Petco, a 20-pound bag of dog food costs $32. We're going to show our work for A and B. So A, it says at this rate, how much does 44-pound bag cost? In order to find 44, you got to find the 1. So because we have to find the 1 pound, that's where I always start. I always label my denominator. So instead of using pounds, I'm going to label it as LBS, which we learned before. So therefore, I know this has to be the money. So for 20 pound of dog food, 20 goes down here, 32 goes up above, so $32 for 20 pounds. When I divide that out in my calculator, I end up with 1.6. But then again, we need our label, so I know that that's $, which means that I also need that hundredths place taken care of, so 1.60. So $1.60 per pound. But I don't want just 1 pound. I instead want this 44 pounds. So therefore, I'm going to take that cost of $1.60 times 44 pounds for my dog food. And I end up with a total of 70.5 0.4, but again, we want that cost because it says how much does it cost. So I need a dollar sign with a 0 at the end. Therefore, 44 pounds of dog food actually cost $70.40. All right, and then the next one. At this rate, how many pounds of dog food could you get for $86? So in order to find 86, you got to find the 1. Therefore, dollars goes down in the denominator. So I know that $32, the original amount was 20 pounds. Therefore, when we divide this out, in order to figure out how many pounds you can get for just $1, when I divide that, I get 0.625 pounds per dollar. But that's just for my per $1. So because that's just $1, I want to multiply that by 86. So in my calculator, I put 0.625 times 86. And we end up with a total cost, or a total poundage of 53.75 pounds right there. All right, so hopefully you feel pretty good with this. Remember, you always just want to look to see, okay, if it's dollars that I have, you got to find for the $1. So therefore, that amount or that label needs to go in the denominator for the unit rate. So go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to try 5A and B, and they're both very, very similar to numbers 3 and 4. So go ahead and pause. All right, so final answer for A is 128 miles. Final answer for B is 25 gallons. Make sure that you have labels for both of those. Hopefully we feel pretty good with this rates. I know we threw a lot at you today, but make sure to keep these notes close by when you do your problems. Good luck.